The night was unusually still. As I stood in my observatory, the cool air seeped through the small window, brushing against my skin like a whisper. A flickering array of stars filled the vast expanse above me, each one a million miles away, a twinkling reminder of how small we are in the grand scheme of the universe. I had spent countless nights here, lost in my research, but tonight felt different. A sense of anticipation thrummed in the air, as if the universe was holding its breath. My telescope, a masterpiece of engineering, sat waiting for me to peer through its lens. I adjusted the focus and began my ritual of scanning the heavens. The familiar constellations greeted me, but as I pushed further into the night, something caught my eye. A luminous green star flickered on the edge of my view. My heart raced. I leaned closer, adjusting the settings on my telescope to capture this anomaly. It pulsated with a life of its own, defying all known astrophysical laws. "Come on, just a little clearer," I muttered under my breath, scribbling notes frantically in my journal. "This can't be right. A green star." I rubbed my eyes, thinking perhaps fatigue was playing tricks on me. But there it was, unwavering and vivid against the backdrop of darkness. Suddenly, a knock on the door jolted me from my reverie. I turned, startled. "Emily? Are you in there?" It was Jake, my estranged brother. The voice that once felt comforting now carried a weight of unresolved tension. "Yeah, I'm here," I called out, trying to keep my excitement in check. "Come in." He pushed the door open, stepping into the room with his usual disheveled appearance, hair tousled, eyes wide with curiosity. "What are you working on this time? Another one of your unexplainable phenomena." I couldn't help but smile, even if it was tinged with a hint of annoyance. "You'll want to see this, Jake. I think I've found something incredible." I gestured toward the telescope, and he leaned in, squinting through the lens. "What the hell is that?" he exclaimed, stepping back as if he'd been burned. "A green star? Come on, Emily. You know that's impossible." I crossed my arms, feeling defensive. "No, it's not. Look at the data I've collected. It's real, and it's unlike anything we've ever observed." He shook his head, skepticism etched on his face. "You know what this means, right? If it's real, it could be a sign of something catastrophic. You can't just ignore the implications." Implications. Ihr seid, Frustration bubbling up. "I'm an astrophysicist, Jake. I'm here to observe, to understand. Not to jump to conclusions like you." "Jump to conclusions?" he retorted, his voice rising. "You're too wrapped up in your research to see the bigger picture. This isn't just a star, this could be the precursor to an invasion." I narrowed my eyes, feeling the familiar tension between us. "You always think it's about conspiracies and impending doom. Can't you just trust me for once?" Before he could respond, the television in the corner flickered to life, breaking our standoff. The news anchor's voice cut through the air, urgent and filled with dread. "Breaking news. A mysterious green star has been spotted in the sky, prompting debates among the scientific community. Experts are scrambling to explain this phenomenon, with some suggesting it may be linked to an impending alien threat." I felt a chill run down my spine. I glanced at Jake, who wore a triumphant grin. "See? I told you. This is just the beginning." I turned back to the screen, my mind racing. The world was about to change, and I was at the forefront of it. But was I ready to face whatever came next? The green star pulsed in my mind, a beacon of mystery and dread, as I realized that my research had just become far more significant than I ever anticipated. "Let's figure this out together," Jake said, his tone softening. "I know we haven't always seen eye to eye, but this is bigger than us." I nodded slowly, contemplating the gravity of the situation. "Okay, let's do it. But we need to keep our heads clear. No wild theories, just facts." As we stood side by side, the green star twinkling in the night sky, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were on the cusp of something monumental, something that could alter the course of humanity forever. As I stood before the audience, my heart raced. The room was packed with scientists, journalists, and government officials, their faces a mixture of skepticism and expectation. Dr. Samuel Reed and I had prepared meticulously for this moment, yet the weight of the green star's implications pressed heavily on my shoulders. I cleared my throat, ready to present our findings. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice steady but laced with urgency, "the green star is unlike anything we've observed before. Its trajectory defies known astrophysical laws, and it's emitting radiation signatures that suggest. Before I could finish, a shadow loomed over the stage. A government official, dressed in a dark suit with a stern expression, strode to the front. "Dr. Carter, I'm afraid we need to halt this presentation. National security is at stake." I glanced at Dr. Reed, who shifted uncomfortably beside me. "What do you mean?" I pressed, a knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. "This information is vital. The public needs to know about the potential danger." The official's gaze hardened. "With all due respect, Dr. Carter, this is not a discussion for the public. We have protocols in place to deal with such matters." I could feel the tension mounting in the room. "Protocols? You're saying we should keep this from the public? If what we've discovered is correct, we may be facing an alien invasion." The murmurs of the audience grew louder. Dr. Reed leaned closer to me, his voice barely a whisper. "Emily, we need to tread carefully. They have power we can't even begin to comprehend. Power to silence the truth." I shot back, frustration boiling beneath the surface. This isn't just about us anymore. If we don't act, who knows what could happen? The official cut in, his voice dripping with condescension. "Dr. Carter, I assure you, we are fully aware of the situation. But this is a matter for the government to handle. We can't allow public panic over unfounded theories." "Unfounded?" I nearly shouted. "We have data. Evidence. Are you really going to sit there and dismiss the potential for an extraterrestrial threat?" Another official whispered something into the ear of the first, who then turned back to me, his expression softer but equally resolute. "You need to understand, Dr. Carter. There are forces at play that go beyond your understanding. Trust us to handle this." Trust. The word echoed in my mind, bitter and ironic. Trust had been a commodity I'd lost in my own family, and now I was being asked to place it in the hands of a government that seemed intent on silencing dissent. "Emily," Dr. Reed interjected, trying to defuse the situation. "Perhaps we should take a step back and consider." "No." I interrupted, my voice rising. "We shouldn't back down. We have a responsibility to warn the world. This isn't just a scientific anomaly anymore, it's a potential crisis." As I spoke, I could see some members of the audience nodding, their expressions shifting from skepticism to concern. Maybe there was a chance to rally them, to uncover the truth. But before I could continue, the officials moved in closer, their presence oppressive. "Dr. Carter, we need you to comply," one of them said, his tone cool and commanding. "This discussion is over." I felt a surge of anger. You can't just sweep this under the rug. What if you're wrong? What if we're staring down the barrel of an invasion and you're too busy playing politics to act? The official's expression remained unchanged, but I could sense the tension in the air. He nodded slightly to his colleagues, and I knew in that moment they had decided to shut me down, to bury the truth before it could take root. I stepped back, my heart pounding, but my resolve solid as iron. "You may silence me today, but I won't give up. I will find a way to expose this, no matter what it takes." After the presentation was dismissed and the audience dispersed, I felt a sense of defeat wash over me. I had come here to share vital information, but it had been squashed under the weight of bureaucracy and secrecy. As I turned to leave, Dr. Reed caught my arm. "Emily, wait," he said, his voice low. "Let's not act rashly. We need to regroup and think of our next move." I nodded, though doubt gnawed at me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was at play, and that the green star was merely the tip of the iceberg. Meanwhile, my brother Jake was out there, spiraling deeper into his conspiracy-laden world. I could only hope he was safe as I faced the daunting task ahead. In the back of my mind, I sensed the urgency of our situation. The green star shimmered ominously in the sky, and if I didn't act soon, it might be too late for all of us. As I paced around my cluttered office, the weight of unease settled heavily on my shoulders. Dr. Reed's evasiveness gnawed at me, twisting my gut. I could still see him, standing before the audience at the conference, his charming smile masking a flicker of something darker in his eyes. Something wasn't right, and the stakes were too high for me to ignore it any longer. I needed to confront him. "Emily." My assistant, Sarah, peeked in, her brow furrowed in concern.
"Are you all recht?"
"You've been pacing for hours." "I need to talk to Dr. Reed," I replied, determination punctuating my words. There's something about his research that feels off. Can you find out where he is? Sure, I'll try to track him down, she said, her voice laced with hesitation. But be careful. He's a big name in the field. People might not take kindly to questions about his integrity. I nodded, already lost in my thoughts. While Sarah made her calls, I turned my attention to my research notes scattered across my desk. The more I delved into the green star's anomalies, the more I felt the urgency to uncover the truth. I couldn't shake the sense that Dr. Reed was hiding vital information, and it was up to me to uncover it. Later that evening, I received a text from Sarah. Found him. He's at the observatory bar. Be careful. The observatory bar was a dimly lit establishment frequented by scientists and researchers, a place where intellect mingled with alcohol. I arrived, my heart racing, and found Dr. Reed seated in a booth, nursing a drink. He looked up as I approached, a hint of surprise flickering across his face. Emily, he said, his voice smooth like velvet. What a pleasant surprise. Dr. Reed, I replied, forcing a smile. I wanted to talk about the green star. He leaned back, folding his arms. Ah yes. Fascinating phenomenon, isn't it? Fascinating, yes, but I'm concerned about your findings, I pressed, lowering my voice to avoid attracting attention. It feels like there's more to this than you're letting on. More. He chuckled, the sound devoid of warmth. You think I'm withholding information? I assure you, I'm as puzzled as you are. Are you? I challenged, leaning closer. You've been awfully optimistic about its implications, considering the chaos it's causing. What do you really know? For a moment, his expression shifted, something cold and calculating lurking beneath his charming facade. Emily, you should focus on your research. The truth has a way of revealing itself in due time. I narrowed my eyes at him, feeling a mix of frustration and fear. What do you mean by that? Are you implying that we're not ready for the truth? He took a slow sip of his drink, maintaining eye contact. Sometimes, ignorance is bliss. The public isn't ready for what lies ahead. It's best to keep them in the dark. I recoiled, my heart pounding. You're saying we should just let them be scared? This is about more than just us. There's an alien threat looming, and we have to prepare. Dr. Reed's demeanor shifted, a hint of annoyance creeping into his voice. Preparation requires discretion, Emily. You don't want to cause unnecessary panic. Unnecessary panic? I shot back, my voice rising. We could be facing an invasion. We need to inform the public, work together to find a solution. He leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. And what if your theories lead to chaos? What if you're wrong? Then I'll own up to it, I said defiantly. But I refuse to sit idly by while you play gatekeeper to the truth. With that, I turned on my heel, leaving him behind. I felt the weight of his gaze on my back, but I couldn't let that deter me. I had to dig deeper. I had to find out the truth. The next morning, as I sifted through Dr. Reed's research papers, a forgotten manuscript caught my eye. It was an ancient text referencing celestial events and their ties to humanity's fate. I felt a spark of hope. If Jake had been right about the manuscript predicting an alien attack, perhaps this would lead me to the answers I desperately needed. Meanwhile, Jake was on his own journey, driven by a need to connect the dots. I could only hope that we would reunite soon to combine our knowledge and face whatever threat lay ahead together. The clock was ticking, and we were running out of time. As I stood in my living room, the weight of the impending press conference pressed down on me like a lead blanket. Jake was pacing back and forth, his hands running through his messy hair, a clear sign of his anxiety. Emily, we have to get this out there, he insisted, his voice laced with urgency. People need to know the truth about the green star. It's not just a cosmic anomaly, it's a warning. I know, Jake. I'm worried about the government's reaction. They could shut us down before we even start, I replied, glancing at the clock on the wall. Time was slipping away, and with it, our chance to warn the world. Then we'll be ready for them, he shot back, determination hardening his features. We can't back down now. Not after everything we've uncovered. Just then, the door burst open, slamming against the wall as two government agents stormed into my home, their badges gleaming ominously. Dr. Carter, you need to come with us, one of them barked, his voice heavy with authority. Get out. I shouted, stepping in front of Jake protectively. What do you want? Your research. We have reason to believe you are in possession of classified information, the second agent said, his eyes narrowing. I could see the tension in his jaw, a man prepared to enforce his will. Classified? This is about an alien invasion, not some conspiracy theory. Jake interjected, stepping forward, but I held him back. Jake, this isn't the time, I began, but before I could finish my thought, the agents closed in. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the doorway, a woman tall and fierce, with an air of confidence about her. Stop right there, she commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. It was Agent Lisa Hargrove, a whistleblower from within the government known for her controversial stances. These agents are not here to protect you. They're here to silence you. What do you mean? I asked, bewildered. They're trying to keep the truth from coming out. The green star is a signal, Emily. You need to get out of here now. Before I could process her words, she whipped out a small device and pressed a button. An electric whir filled the room, and the agents froze, confused. Go. I'll hold them off, she urged, gesturing toward the back door. Come with us. Jake yelled, but she shook her head. I can't. I have to make sure you get away. Just go. I hesitated for a moment, torn between helping her and fleeing with my brother. We'll figure this out later. I shouted, and with that, we bolted out the back, hearts racing. The night air hit us like a slap, cool and invigorating. We sprinted down the alley, adrenaline coursing through my veins. As we reached the street, I glanced back, half expecting to see the agents in pursuit. Where do we go now? Jake gasped, trying to catch his breath. To the conference, I replied, my mind racing. We have to warn the media. They'll help us amplify our message. We need to make sure the world knows what's happening. As we arrived at the venue, I felt a mix of fear and determination. The conference center was buzzing with reporters and scientists, all oblivious to the storm brewing just outside. We have to get in front of that microphone, I said, my voice steady despite the chaos in my mind. We can do this, Jake affirmed, his confidence bolstering my own. Let's just speak the truth. With each step towards the stage, the weight of our revelations loomed larger. I could see Dr. Reed in the crowd, his expression unreadable. I pushed aside doubts and focused on the task at hand. This was our chance to expose the reality behind the green star. As I prepared to take the microphone, I felt a tremor in the air, a strange energy that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Jake, I whispered, do you feel that? Before he could respond, the lights flickered ominously, plunging the room into a momentary darkness. A collective gasp rippled through the audience as the green star shone brightly through the windows, its glow more intense than ever. Emily, look outside. Jake shouted, and I turned, my heart racing. Alien ships were appearing in the sky, sleek and menacing, confirming my brother's worst fears. The crowd erupted into chaos, panic spreading like wildfire. I felt my heart drop. What had we unleashed? Now, we have to speak. Jake urged, pulling me toward the stage as the crowd began to scatter. The moment I gripped the microphone, I took a deep breath, ready to share everything we had uncovered. But just as the words began to form on my lips, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket. I glanced at the screen, and my heart skipped a beat. It was a message from Dr. Reed, urging me to meet him in a remote location. I have vital information about the invasion, it read. Emily, we can't trust him. Jake said, his voice a mixture of dread and urgency. I know, but what if he actually knows something we need? I countered, torn between my instincts and the overwhelming sense of danger surrounding us. Whatever it is, it can wait. We need to focus on getting the truth out. With alien ships hovering ominously above, I knew we were running out of time. The choice weighed heavily on me as I scanned the chaos around us, realizing that the real battle was just beginning. As I stood in the dimly lit clearing, the trees around us swayed gently in the night breeze, their leaves whispering secrets I couldn't quite grasp. I felt a wave of unease wash over me as I glanced at Jake, who was pacing anxiously just a few feet away. The moonlight illuminated his face, highlighting the worry etched into his features. Emily, are you sure about this? He asked, his voice low and tense. I have to know what he's going to say, I replied, trying to assert a confidence I didn't fully feel. Dr. Reed had sent the message, urging me to meet him here, and despite my reservations, I couldn't ignore the nagging curiosity. The sound of footsteps broke through the silence, and my heart raced. Dr. Reed emerged from the shadows, his figure cloaked in a long coat that flapped slightly in the wind. "I'm glad you came," he said, his voice smooth but laced with an unsettling undertone. "Let's get straight to it, Reed," I said, crossing my arms defensively. "What do you know about the Green Star?" He chuckled softly, but there was no humor in his eyes. "It's not just a star, Emily. It's a beacon, signaling something much larger than ourselves." Jake stepped forward, his skepticism evident. "What do you mean? What's coming?" Dr. Reed's eyes flickered with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "The aliens are coming to retrieve something that was hidden on Earth long ago. Something they left behind." I felt the ground shift beneath me as the implications of his words sunk in. "Retrieve? What are you talking about?" He hesitated, then leaned closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "A technology, a weapon, perhaps even a key to their world. And they believe it's here, among us." "What do you know about this technology?" Jake interjected, his tone a blend of disbelief and intensity. Reed's gaze darted between us, and I could see his mind racing. "I've only scratched the surface of the information. But I have connections, people who can help us understand what's at stake." "Why should we trust you?" I shot back, the walls I had built around my heart closing in. "You've been working with the government. How do we know you're not just leading us into a trap?" Dr. Reed straightened, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of something genuine in his eyes. "I'm not your enemy, Emily. But the government, they have their own agenda, and it's not about protecting humanity." As he spoke, I felt a growing sense of dread. There was something off about his demeanor, a spark of ambition that sent chills down my spine. "You're lying," I said, almost to myself. "You're in cahoots with them, aren't you?" Jake stepped back, his expression shifting to one of realization. "You're working with the aliens, Reed. You think you can bargain with them." Dr. Reed's eyes darkened, and before I could react, he lunged at us. "You don't understand," he yelled, desperation creeping into his voice. Instinct kicked in, and I grabbed Jake's arm, pulling him out of the way as Reed stumbled forward. "Get back!" I shouted, adrenaline surging through me. Jake and I exchanged a glance, our shared understanding igniting a fire in my chest. We couldn't let him take us down without a fight. "We need to get out of here," I said urgently, my heart pounding. "Not without that information," Jake replied, determination hardening his features. "Fine, then let's subdue him," I replied, moving to flank Reed as he regained his footing. The confrontation escalated quickly. Reed was fast, but we were fueled by the urgency of our mission. As I feigned left, Jake circled right, and we managed to corner him against a tree. "You have to tell us everything," I demanded, my voice steadier than I felt. "I won't let you ruin everything," he spat back, his eyes wild with fear and fury. Before I could respond, he made a desperate move, pushing against us with surprising strength. In the chaos, I stumbled, and Jake caught me just in time. We had to regroup to think. "Let's go," I shouted, grabbing Jake's hand. "We can't let him warn the others." With a final shove, we broke free, sprinting into the darkness, the weight of the truth heavy on our shoulders. The clock was ticking, and the stakes had never been higher. We had to stop the invasion, and fast. As I sat across from Jake in the dim light of his cluttered living room, the air crackled with a mix of urgency and desperation. The ancient manuscript lay open on the coffee table, its pages yellowed and fragile, yet pulsing with the weight of the knowledge it contained. I could feel the tension radiating from my brother, a palpable energy that matched the chaos swirling in my mind. "Emily, this could be our only chance," Jake said, his voice a low whisper as if the walls had ears. "If we can hack into their communication system, we might be able to expose the truth before it's too late." I nodded, my heart racing. The manuscript mentions a frequency that could disrupt their signals. If we can decode it, we might just turn the tide. The weight of our mission was heavy on my shoulders, but the thought of exposing the truth, of finally tearing down the veil of deception, lit a fire within me. We worked tirelessly, surrounded by Jake's half-finished conspiracy boards, maps of the sky, and scribbled notes. Hours felt like minutes as we pieced together the clues the manuscript offered. I could see the determination etched on Jake's face, a fierce resolve that reminded me of the brother I once knew before we drifted apart. Here, Jake pointed to a specific passage. This part talks about a harmonic frequency that can resonate with celestial bodies. If we can find a way to amplify it, we can disrupt their communications. I leaned closer, my fingers brushing against the manuscript. It's worth a shot. But we need a strong enough transmitter, something that can reach their ships in orbit. My mind raced through the possibilities.
The observatory.
We can use the equipment there. Great idea. Let's go, Jake replied, already moving toward the door. The drive to the observatory felt surreal. The night sky was eerily calm, despite the looming threat. As we approached the building, the familiar sight of the towering telescope brought a rush of nostalgia. It was here where I had spent countless nights gazing at the stars, dreaming of discoveries that could change the world. As we entered the observatory, the low hum of machinery greeted us, a comforting reminder of the scientific pursuits that had always defined my life. We quickly set to work, pulling out the necessary equipment and connecting it to the main console. My fingers flew over the keyboard, adrenaline coursing through my veins. "Do you really think this will work?" Jake asked, his voice tinged with doubt. "It has to," I replied, forcing confidence into my tone. "If we can just get a signal strong enough." Just then, the screen flickered to life, displaying the alien ships hovering ominously in the sky, their sleek forms casting shadows over the city. My stomach twisted at the sight, a visceral reminder of what was at stake. "There," I said, pointing to the readings on the screen. "We need to aim for that frequency." Jake's eyes widened as he glanced back at the screen. "If this is a government ploy, they'll probably try to shut us down." "Then we'll have to be quick," I said, my heart pounding with intensity. I initiated the transmission, my fingers trembling slightly as I pressed the button. The observatory was filled with a low whir, an almost musical sound as the equipment began to resonate with the frequency from the manuscript. Then, just as we thought we were making progress, the alarms blared, punctuating the silence with a jarring urgency. "They're on to us," Jake shouted, his face pale. "Stay focused," I yelled, trying to drown out the panic that bubbled in my chest. I watched the screen as the readings fluctuated. "We have to." But before I could finish my sentence, the door burst open, and a group of government agents stormed in, their expressions cold and determined. I recognized one of them, Dr. Reed. "Stop what you're doing," he barked, pointing a finger at us. "You don't know what you're meddling with." "Neither do you," I shot back, anger flaring within me. "You're part of the deception, Dr. Reed. This isn't about aliens, it's about control." He hesitated, and in that moment, I seized the opportunity. "Jake, keep the transmission going. I'll distract them." "Emily, no." Jake protested, but I was already moving, stepping in front of the console. "Listen to me. We're not afraid of you," I shouted, my voice steady. "The world deserves to know the truth." Dr. Reed glared at me, his eyes narrowing. "You'll regret this, Emily." I took a deep breath, feeling a surge of strength. "No, you will." With that, I turned back to the screen, praying that our efforts would pay off. The truth was out there, and I would fight to reveal it. Together, Jake and I would expose the lies, no matter the cost.